Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Renew. I'm Pastor Tony. Thanks for joining us, and let's get right to the point today. We're talking this week about the reality of the forgiveness of our sins. You know, this is already a reality in God's own eyes. As far as God's concerned, the price for the forgiveness of all of our sins has already been paid. God was satisfied with the finished work of Jesus in his death, burial, and resurrection, and his shed blood. And he took that as a full payment for the forgiveness of our sins. But on our end, we have to accept that as a reality also. We have to get rid of that sense of guilt, inferiority, that sense of condemnation and shame that just tends to nag at us, all the time. And we've got to replace that with a faith in the finished work of Jesus. Now let's look back over to the book of Colossians today. Book of Colossians chapter 1. Colossians 1 in verse number 14. It says, in whom, now he's talking about Jesus, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. Now I know, again, we toss around the word redemption and redeem a lot of times and really do not really understand what it means. What does it mean to be redeemed? Well, the word redeem means to buy back. To buy out of slavery through the payment of a price, or to deliver through the payment of a price. And see, that's exactly what Jesus was doing on the cross. When he became our substitute and our sacrifice on the cross, he was buying us out. He was redeeming us out of slavery and out of that incarcerated state of sin that we were in. He was paying the sin debt off. Now, notice it says, in whom we have this. This is something that God's given us freely to enjoy, and we have this as our present possession. We have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. So, in other words, redemption, or the buying back through the payment of a price, means that we have been forgiven of all sins. It involves the forgiveness of sins. In fact, that is the centerpiece of the gospel. That's the centerpiece. And why Jesus came was to save us from our sins, to provide a way for us to be redeemed, to get rid of that sin, and to wipe our record clean like it never even existed before. That is the good news of the gospel right there. Now, how could that happen right there? You know, the problem is, first of all, we were all born with a sin debt. We inherited that from the first Adam, from the Garden of Eden, what he did. And of course, we added our sins to that, and that debt just got bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point that no one, not all mankind, could pay it for all eternity. Romans chapter 6 says that the wages of sin is death. That's not just physical death, that's spiritual death. In other words, the wages for sin, the payment, the price for our sin would have had to have been paid through being incarcerated in hell for all eternity. And God was not willing just to give up on mankind. He was not willing just to let the creation go. That's why at the beginning, before we even had a sin problem, God already had a solution. He already had a plan of redemption and salvation in mind. In fact, he created our own bodies with the idea of redemption in mind. See, God is so smart, isn't he? Even though we had this big problem of the sin debt that none of us could pay, not all mankind could pay in all eternity, God knew that he could devise a way to pay that price and to redeem us out of that situation so that we don't have to go to hell. Man, that's good news right there. Well, how did that work then? Well, who was it? Who could it be then that could actually buy us back, to redeem us, could pay the price for sin? That's where we enter Jesus. And let's look at verse number 15 and 16. It said, he, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. Verse 16 says, for by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him and for him. So you know what? Jesus, the Son of God, was the catalyst for creation. He was the creator. See, we look at it like that. Jesus, the Creator, was worth more valuable than all the creation put together. He was more worthy, more valuable than the creation that He created. Now, again, there was a problem here. That how could the Creator become the creation and die on the cross and pay for our sin? Well, that's where the wisdom of God is so good, because God, again, created mankind with redemption in mind. He created a way. Now, you don't have to understand all the ins and outs, scientific facts and technical things in order to enjoy and accept this reality right here. But God devised a plan where He could get His Messiah through the womb of a woman into the earth, take upon Himself a physical body and die on the cross without being attached and corrupted by the bloodline of Adam and all of us, and being and having that inherited sin debt to His account. You know, again, you don't have to understand all of this to receive it and enjoy it, but you do have to understand that Jesus came through the womb of a woman, a virgin birth, that He was not attached to the first Adam. He was incorruptible, but He took upon Himself a fleshly body. The Son of God became the Son of Man. The Son of God, the Creator, was personified, and He was incarnate in a physical body that could go to the cross, that could pay the price for all of our sins, that could shed a spotless, pure blood on the cross, could give His life for all the creation, and could buy us back in 3 days and 3 nights. That's how valuable and how great Jesus is, the Creator. Well, that's all the time I've got for today. If you like additional resources and materials, go to tonycowan.org, and we will see you tomorrow.